You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Hello and welcome to Business Access Television's coverage of the opening ceremony and reception for the Mona School of Business and Management's 4th Business and Management Conference. We're at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in New Kingston. I'm your host, Kenil Gale. Stay tuned for the highlights.
Honorable Minister Nigel Clarke, other distinguished guests, members of the UWIC Committee, and members of the Mona School of Business and Management, academics from Jamaica and the region, members of the business community, President of the PSOJ and other dignitaries. Welcome. This is our official opening of our 4th International Business Conference, and it promises to be one of our most exciting as we deal with the topic of entrepreneurship and the promise that it should deliver to the economy. We're pleased to share and spearhead this initiative, and we feel that we're well placed to do so. The Mona School of Business and Management has a long record of research, teaching and learning, as well as implementing our own venture competition program, which has gone on to be the 2-time defending champion of the National Business Model Competition. So we feel that we're uniquely placed to have this discussion about entrepreneurship. We seek to bring together all the members of the community, entrepreneurs, small and large, and to have critical discussions. We've started today, but over the next 2 days, on how we can advance entrepreneurship, both traditional and social entrepreneurship, in collaboration with you, our partners. So, welcome once again. We look forward to stimulating discussion. As I said this morning, this is another in the series of building bridges between not just Mona School of Business and Management, but also the wider university to the business community. We feel it's important that what we do impacts you today and tomorrow. Today it is teaching and learning, tomorrow it is research.
We had our first in 2015. And at that stage, our executive director at the time, Professor Denzel Williams, thought it would be a good idea to have an event that showcased more of the work of the University of the West Indies, more of the experiences of small island developing states in the area of business and management. And so here we are today, the 4th conference, under the leadership of our new executive director, Dr. David McBean. And so this conference, we've chosen the theme of delivering on the promise of entrepreneurship. Why? We are at a watershed moment in our country's history and development. We've had a number of policies, a number of initiatives among a whole range of actors, organizations in Jamaica and among our international development partners. And the focus has been largely on entrepreneurship, innovation. What is the magic? What do we need to do to propel our economy forward? And so we thought at this stage, as a business and management institution, educational institution, it would be good to showcase our role in that. And so we brought together this, what I call, distinguished panel of speakers and this program throughout the conference. So we have put together 23 sessions over a 3-day period. We started this morning at 8:30 a.m. and I'm happy to see many of the people who were here at 8:30 a.m. They're still here with us, and I'm grateful for that. We don't take that kind of support lightly at all. So our program reflects a number of the key players across the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Jamaica, from private sector, public sector, civil society, social enterprises. We have, for instance, our host of display and exhibits on the outside and throughout the conference. And these are businesses, enterprises that have sprung up, most of them, through our venture competitions at the Mona School of Business and Management and the wider university campus. And as we are here, I invite you to walk about and see what is there. So we have a host of sessions that focus on some of the hard skills for entrepreneurs. What are the audit issues? What are the legal issues? What are the regulatory issues that we all need to know about as entrepreneurs and MSMEs? What are some of the innovations? What are some of the policies taking place? We have sessions that focus on youth entrepreneurship, on gender, on networking, and it's critical that we offer these kinds of skills, because the reality is doing business is not just about the legal and regulatory issues. It's not just about having the idea. It's also equipping our entrepreneurs and MSMEs to learn about how to network. How do you navigate the waters?
We're here with Dr. David McBean, who is the Executive Director of the Mona School of Business and Management. Welcome to Business Access Television, Dr. McBean.
Thank you for having me.
Just tell me quickly, what was the thinking behind setting up this conference and organizing the theme for this conference?
Well, it's our biennial conference, as is once every 2 years. And when we looked at our research, our interest, what the country need, we decided on looking at entrepreneurship and promise of delivery. And entrepreneurship is now just so crucial for growth, and the minister would have endorsed that. And as a business school, because we remind people we're a business school, we have to look at the issues and areas that would drive business development in the country. So that's how we ended up with entrepreneurship this year.
Do you think Mona School of Business's role in helping to drive economic growth in Jamaica is somewhat overlooked?
I wouldn't say overlooked, more understated. So we've had impact on policy, for example, influencing MSME policies, policies on entrepreneurship. We've done research and consultancies with all the major companies in the country across manufacturing, finance, for example. So we are an important part of the fabric. Our graduates, whether at the undergraduate level or the postgraduate level, are in every facet of business in the country. But people tend to take it for granted. And so one of the things we have to do is certainly increase our engagement, but also highlight our existing engagement.
Do you think there needs to be greater collaboration with the Mona School of Business and other faculties on campus?
Yes, and we do have that collaboration. So for example, our master's students right now are solving some problems in the Faculty of Medicine. And we're doing work also with the main administrative centers, looking at student performance. And so we are increasingly more integrated, and we run the venture competition on campus, whose winners have gone on to win the National Business Model Competition. So we don't only take MSBM students, we do take students from other faculties. So we do a bit, but we have a lot more to do, and especially around entrepreneurship, driving that throughout the university.
I'm really very pleased to be here and for the DBJ to be a sponsor of this very, very important conference that the Mona School of Business and Management is putting on. Indeed, this is the second year that the DBJ is sponsoring this conference. And I am pleased that we are sponsoring again this year, because the theme of the conference, delivering on the promise of entrepreneurship, is really aligned with the work that we are doing at the DBJ as it relates to our focus on the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. So we have capacity building programs that are offered to the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises the work that we're doing in entrepreneurship, the work that we do with the universities, with the incubators, the business model competition that we sponsor every year with the universities. This is all very, very, very important work that's taking place, and we are really very happy to see that the Mona School of Management and Business is now really putting into practice a lot of the research and theories that we have at the universities. So yes, we are very pleased. We are very happy to be a sponsor of this conference, and the reports that I've had so far, the conference has indeed gone very, very well. And just to say that we're looking forward to continue working in particular with the Mona School of Business. There are a number of very exciting projects and programs that we are going to be rolling out during the course of this year. The minister might mention some of them in his remarks. But again, just to say that we are really very happy to be a sponsor again of this conference, and we wish the conference every success. Thank you very much.
You're watching Business Access's coverage of the opening ceremony and reception for the Mona School of Business and Management's 4th Business and Management Conference. More after this break.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Business Access Television's coverage of the Mona School of Business and Management's Business and Management Conference. Here are more highlights.
I'm very happy that the Mona School of Business has saw it fit to focus on the topic of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship at its most fundamental level is taking risk in order to achieve a particular objective. You can have social entrepreneurs, you can have business entrepreneurs. I think we're focused on business entrepreneurs here, but the risk taking is common to both. And as far as business entrepreneurs are concerned, it is risk taking with a view of making a profit. Now, throughout the course of human history, it is clear and abundantly clear that the value of entrepreneurship to a society is immensely great, because all progress comes from taking risk, making mistakes, and more often than not, making breakthroughs that lead to phenomenal results. And all the advances that we can think of, the things that we take for granted, even here in Jamaica, the clothes that we wear, to the devices that we use, the cars that we drive, all of the products and services that we consume and we don't even think about, they resulted at some point in time from some entrepreneurial energy and success. Indeed, the components of all the things that we use resulted from some type of entrepreneurial success. So societies around the world that want to get ahead, want to deliver for their people prosperity, are focused on how to engender and support and inculcate in their societies this thing that we call entrepreneurship. When you go to countries like Chile, that is today known for entrepreneurship, it has resulted from a dedicated focus over a long period of time, and Chile has had some very innovative programs, some of which would be great if we could do in Jamaica. They have a program, for instance, and this is not a proposal. This is called Flying a Kite. But they have this very interesting thing in Chile where, and they can do it now given the stage of development they're at, but they offer a certain amount of funds to any entrepreneur anywhere in the world who comes and sets up business in Santiago. And they may even, there's a small hiring component. So if you're going to set up a business, they advertise. You come to Chile and we will give you $50,000. I don't have the precise, it might be 50, it might be 25, but some number like that. That's how serious they are about entrepreneurship. You go to Israel, there are serious programs designed to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem. You go to India, and it's the same. And the reason is that these countries realize the tremendous value to society from having an entrepreneurial ecosystem and an entrepreneurial group in society that's not predetermined by birth. It's not the son of or the daughter of. It is determined by the power of one's character and one's dispensation, one's energy, one's outlook, one's preferences in life. If entrepreneurship is going to be dependent on the son of or the daughter of, we'll never get anywhere because there's no talent in the world that we know that's distributed in that way. But in all countries that thrive on entrepreneurship, there is a great degree of innovation that comes from their research institutions. Now, Jamaica has research. Of the 25 patents in the University of the West Indies, I believe 20 of them, Prof, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 20 of them are at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. These are international patents. Now the question is, how many of them have been commercialized and have been made to make money? That is the question. Because one thing to have the brain power and the tenacity, brain power to develop the research, the tenacity to go through the complicated process of registering an international patent and having the intellectual property. But the next stage is to be able to commercialize that research. And that is an element that we need to work on if we are to realize our potential. As a result of that, we are working on engagement with the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, and we're going to doing it through the DBJ. That is going to help us with the technical resources to build the capacity for commercializing of research. And these things normally come with loans. So they lend you money and then they have one of the consulting with it. We're in the process of negotiating that now, and I hope before too long it is something that we can launch. And as I said, a key component of it will be to enhance our ability to commercialize research. The inspiration that comes from, that leads to these kinds of development are not known, it's not known a priori from which quarter it will spring. We don't know in advance under which rock or at which root of which tree this inspiration is going to arise. And therefore, we have to have an environment where wherever it springs from, capital can be available to allow it to move forward. And having a market economy where prior ownership of capital is a necessary prerequisite to get from point A to point B is an experiment in futility. That's an exercise that will never work. We have to democratize capital, and it only responds to ideas. Now, we are making steps in that regard. As I announced earlier this year, as a part of the IDB facility of which I spoke earlier, which will have the component that helps us in the research and the knowledge transfer, we're going to have a sidecar fund of just starting with 200 million Jamaican dollars that will match angel investors, dollar for dollar, on angel investments that they make. The government doesn't have the resources to do the search or the evaluation, and so what it will do is find as many angel networks as it can, 2, 3, 4, 5, and have MOUs with them that whatever they decide to support, the government will come in on the same terms on a 50-50 basis. This will expand the pool available for the ventures that are at the riskiest and most uncertain stage. We have also increased our allocation through the DBJ and through other intermediaries of funding to medium-sized, micro and small businesses. As far as a product that deals with the providing replacement for security, i.e. this guaranteed product, where a medium-sized business that doesn't have the collateral can get a credit support from the DBJ, we increased the allocation of that from 250 million last year to 600 million this year, because we're serious about promoting entrepreneurship. There's a facility that deals with risk capital at DBJ that we increased from 100 million to 400 million this year, because we're serious about boosting entrepreneurship. This is from a government that has 1 million, as you know, pressing needs in society, where we're creating space to support entrepreneurship. We also have allocated for the first time, and we just have to finalize the mechanisms for its disbursement, $500 million that is dedicated exclusively to companies that have sales under $10 million. So normally what happens, you allocate to MSMEs, and the companies with sales of 400 million or 300 million tend to dominate the financing. We know from our experience that the broader the base is the stronger the pyramid. So we want to make sure we have a broad base and that the micro companies have access to the oxygen of finance, and therefore $500 million exclusively to micro enterprises. In my budget presentation, I announced $200 million to be allocated towards research. Well, what we will do is allocate those funds across the research university space in a way that is transparent and in reference to some objective criteria, and leave it to the universities under some MOU with the Ministry of Finance, that's very general, to run the internal competitions for the allocation of those funds.
We take another break here on Business Access Television's coverage of the Mona School of Business and Management's 4th Business and Management Conference. We'll be right back.
Our women are the backbone of our society. They deserve to be protected and respected. Domestic violence is not okay. Speak up and speak out. No more violence against women.
Welcome back. You're watching BATV's coverage of the opening ceremony and reception for the Mona School of Business and Management's 4th Business and Management Conference. Mr. Clark, welcome to Business Access. Do you think the issue of research and development has been understated in Jamaica in terms of driving economic growth?
I think research has a huge role to play in our development. As I said in my speech earlier, of the 25 patents at the University of the West Indies regionally, 20 of them are right here on the Mona campus, right? People right here in Jamaica who have registered 20 international patents. What we want is an environment where we encourage other researchers to develop ideas that can lead to international patents. But in addition to that, we want an environment where those patents can be commercialized, where those patents, the knowledge can be transferred to those with entrepreneurial energy and those who have a desire to take risk, and for those patents to be turned into money at the end of the day. And the government is focused on working to ensure that this becomes a possibility. We're working with the IDB, Inter-American Development Bank, on a project to boost entrepreneurship in Jamaica, and a big part of that project will be to provide the technical resources and provide us with the technical help to build those knowledge transfer mechanisms to allow us to commercialize research.
How will you ensure that the other universities do not feel left out? Because you did speak about spreading across the country, but how will we ensure that it's not just heavily UWI?
No, absolutely. When I speak about, I'm just using the examples of the patents because they have come from UWI, right? So that's just a fact of life. But our approach to research will be Jamaica-wide. Any institution involved in research, whatever we are doing, for example, with that IDB project to boost entrepreneurship, will be generally available.
You spoke about the $200 million that will start in the fund. What about those who say, that's not enough if we really want to monetize this properly?
If you start at zero,
right,
and you go from 0 to 200, that's an infinite increase, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to start somewhere. This is the first time that we are making an allocation directly from the budget specifically for research. Okay, normally how it is done, it is an allocation made to the university and then they choose what they're going to put here and there. Here we're saying research is important, and we are symbolizing what we mean by that by making an amount available. And we start somewhere and we hope to build on that over time.
All right, Mr. Thank you so much for talking with us.
My pleasure.
Your response to the minister's presentation earlier about the government's commitment to research.
So, Mr. Clark said some very positive things about supporting entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship in Jamaica. And I think that many of those things, if implemented properly, will have some visible impact that we're going to see. So, talking about giving space to the private sector and for that creativity to be found and democratizing funding for them, great things. And some of those programs that are through DBJ going to be enabling more people to be able to access these funds, also great things. And the microfinance to the micro entities, also wonderful ideas. The funding to for research, big step in the right direction. Government has funded research indirectly by funding universities, but they've never before said you must use these funds for research. And now this is that first step. And I think it's very good to recognize that what research does is help provide solutions to problems that, let's say, nobody knows the answer to yet. That's the point of research. And so to recognize that that's an important component of that stream of activities that leads to the kind of entrepreneurial outputs that we're looking for, that have economic impact. And to recognize that some deliberate funding needs to be put into that, that's a step in the right direction. So I fully support.
And that's how we end our coverage of the Mona School of Business and Management's 4th Business and Management Conference, opening ceremony and reception. I'm your host, Keneal Gale. Thanks so much for watching.
Hi there. Welcome to another Jamaica Magazine program. I'm Theodore Henry. We start off with concerns being expressed by the National Water Commission. The agency is reporting that its systems are still being impacted by drought conditions, so customers need to brace for low water pressures, changes in their supply, or in some instances, no water. Yes, we know we've been experiencing more frequent rainfall in some drought-affected communities, but still, a shower of rain doth not a drought break. That's why it's important for all of us to continue practicing the 4 R's of water conservation. What are they, you may ask? Find out next.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, July 29. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the National Housing Trust will be starting 2,689 new housing solutions by next month. This, he says, will complement the 11,198 housing solutions started or completed by the NHT since 2017.
The NHT is following the mandate that they have been given, which is build house, build house, build house. That's the only way we're going to address squatting. We have to get ahead of the demand for housing solutions. And we have to make sure that the housing solution is affordable and that we build solutions that meet the market segment's demand.
Prime Minister Holness was addressing Friday's handing over ceremony of 37 housing solutions at the Spanish Ridge Housing Scheme at Mary's Field in St. Catherine. The scheme has 18 two-bedroom units costing $12 million each and 12 one-bedroom units, each costing $10 million. There are also 4 premium serviced lots costing $3.7 million and 3 standard lots for $2.8 million. The Ministry of Agriculture will be taking steps to regularize farmers operating on government-owned land at New Pen in St. Mary and get more farmers planting the land. Minister without portfolio J.C. Hutchinson made the announcement on Friday as he toured areas in St. Mary that have been affected by drought and bushfires. He said the Agro Investment Corporation, AIC, would have oversight of the roughly 800 acres of land at New Pen.
Roughly 200 of it is arable land. There are many farmers who have indicated that there are roughly another 150 acres which can be cleared, although it is sloping land. They feel that it can grow cash crops. So we are looking to see if we can put a number of farmers on that piece of land. There's also the rest of the land which might be close to 600 acres where we intend to bulldoze that land and identify tree crops which can grow on the land and also intercropping it with pineapple.
In addition to helping with clearing the land, Minister Hutchinson says the AIC will provide technical support to the farmers. He has urged them to re-establish a farmers group that would make lease arrangements on their behalf with the AIC. Minister Hutchinson said the initiative would help the ministry monitor and get good data on what is actually being farmed in the area and by whom, and to market the crops properly. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Ministry is also planning to help more farmers into production on 130 acres of land at Fort George in St. Mary. Minister J.C. Hutchinson says the land, which has a river beside it, is prime for planting cash crops.
It is one where we have a number of cows, but we are going to be removing the cows to a section next door and using the whole of this land for cash crops. So in all, we are looking that we should be putting on the land might be another 50, 60 farmers that we can get going growing cash crops and fruit trees.
In other news, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, is urging persons to not become complacent with their hurricane preparations. Acting Director General Richard Thompson says August to September is usually the most active period of the season.
That's when we would have been impacted. Your Gilbert, Matthew, Gustav, TD16 that a lot of persons call Nicole. So for small island developing state like ours, we normally say persons have to be prepared because it takes only one system to create major impact.
Mr. Thompson was speaking on JIS's current affairs program, Get the Facts, recently. He pointed out that during a disaster, ODPEM would work with the National Disaster Risk Management Council, mayors, and zonal communities within parishes to minimize the impact of natural disasters on individuals and the country. According to Mr. Thompson, there are approximately 900 shelters across the island that can be activated in the event of a hurricane. The 2019 Atlantic hurricane season is projected to be a near-normal season, with 9 to 15 named storms, 4 to 8 of which will possibly become hurricanes, and 2 to 4 likely to become Category 4 or 5. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has commissioned into service a new elevator at the Spanish Town Hospital. The National Health Fund, NHF, provided the $13 million cost to purchase and install the elevator. According to the NHF, the workload at the Type B hospital is comparable to that of a Type A facility. The new elevator is expected to increase efficiency at the 400-bed hospital, which serves a parish of over 500,000 people. And finally, a statue in honor of outstanding Jamaican athlete Veronica Campbell-Brown will be unveiled during this year's Heritage Week celebration in October.
This year, during Heritage Week, we will salute another of our stars, Veronica Campbell-Brown, another outstanding woman of Jamaican sport. We're finalizing arrangements for the installation of the statue of Asafa Powell later on in the year as well.
Mrs. Campbell-Brown is a track and field sprinter who specializes in the 100 and 200-meter events. She's an 8-time Olympic medalist and the second woman in history to win 2 consecutive Olympic 200-meter events. Veronica Campbell-Brown's statue will join those of fellow track stars Shelly Ann Fraser-Price and Usain Bolt, which were recently installed by the government at Independence Park. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
It keeps our bodies working, our food nutritious, our living and working spaces clean, and our lives comfortable. Water, the most precious resource necessary for the sustenance of life on our planet. Don't waste it. Let's conserve on this critical commodity. In the house, invest in storage containers and buckets. Take quick showers instead of long baths, and invest in water-efficient shower heads, toilets, and faucets. You may also want to consider one-pot meals and cooking methods that don't require much water. You could also wash fruits and vegetables in a bowl and reuse the water on your plants or grass. When cleaning dishes, fill both sinks and use one for washing and the other for rinsing. The leftover water can be used to wash off the concrete or asphalt in your yard. If you must wash your car at home, aim for once a fortnight and use a bucket to do the washing instead of running the hose. Don't delay. Start your water conservation practices today.
Even as we urge you to store water for later use during this dry spell, we also want to encourage you to ensure that the water you store is safe for consumption. Here's a simple rule of thumb. If the water is brown or has an odor, don't use it. If it's clear, bring it to a roiling boil and boil for an extra minute just to be sure. If you're using bleach to purify your water, do not use bulk bleach, use household bleach instead. While you purify your water at home, see how it's done on an industrial level.
The human body cannot function without water. While you may live for up to 3 weeks without food, you cannot go more than a week without water. From breaking down the food we eat so the body can use it, to helping us heal when we get sick, water is needed for almost every process that takes place in the body. And although 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, drinking it directly from seas, rivers, wells, or aqueducts may make you sick. Untreated water contains bacteria and other germs, as well as chemicals that may be dangerous to the body. So in order to get the water from here to here safely, it has to be treated. Water treatment processes differ depending on the source. If the water is coming from a river, for example, here at the Negro River in St. Thomas, it usually goes through an extensive treatment process before reaching the pipe.
Here is where we do the first type of treatment in the form of sedimentation and screening. Behind me you can see where we screen the bigger stuff like the sticks, the stones and debris. Then we come down to the sediment where we separate the sand from the stones. And then this water will leave from St. Thomas and pipe into Kingston via pipeline into the Mona Reservoir.
The Mona Reservoir is the island's largest raw water storage facility and provides the liquid to over 30% of people living in Kingston and St. Andrew. If this is where you get your water, here is where the next step in the treatment process occurs.
Here in the reservoir, we allow for maximum levels of mixing, maximum levels of aeration, as can be done here at the facility. We also, at the reservoir, you allow for settling out of the silt and the suspended particles, dirt particles, that would otherwise be in the raw water. We then take the water from the reservoir and take it to the Mona treatment plant.
At the treatment plant, chemicals are added to further purify the water. Chlorine is first added to kill bacteria.
You have stages that include flocculation, where we actually add chemicals to the water that allow those microscopic dirt particles that are still in the water to be brought together in what we call flux, and then we are able to skim it off and remove it from the water.
The water is then passed through filters which contain layers of sand, gravel, charcoal, or synthetic materials that remove remaining small particles. The final stage is disinfection. Here, chlorine is added to kill any other bacteria or germ.
Ensuring that we have what we refer to as chlorine residual that goes with the water, so that as the water travels along the pipeline to our customers, should it come in contact with any germs along the way, there is enough chlorine residual in that water to destroy those germs and still be delivered to the customer in good quality.
The water is tested all throughout the treatment process to ensure that what you get in your pipe meets World Health Organization standards.
For several years running, the National Water Commission has won the best tasting water in the Caribbean. We have also been acknowledged by the various arms of the United Nations at different points in time as having one of the best quality water in the hemisphere.
That is definitely something we can drink to.
With over 250 road fatalities recorded since the start of the year, we continue to plead with you to take care on our nation's roads. Obey traffic signals, reduce your speed, and practice safe road usage. Get more tips next.
Pedestrians, it is only safe to cross this designated part of the road if you follow the road rules. Never attempt to cross before the indication is given, and do not try to beat the oncoming traffic which has the green light.
You have overhead bridges, and overhead bridges are safe areas that are provided for pedestrians to cross. What we are seeing are pedestrians dashing across dual carriageways and then leaping over concrete medians. That is a no-no. We have had persons who have lost their lives doing that. And I am now appealing to pedestrians to do the right thing and access the overhead bridges that are provided in order to save your own life.
Where there is no overhead bridge or crossing sign, use the pedestrian crossing with caution. Monitor the lights and cross when it's safe to do so. That is a dangerous practice and a 99.9% chance of this happening.
The amount of kinetic energy that comes on your body, that is going to determine whether or not you survive.
There are several signs. Road signs are the language of the road. You have informational signs, directional signs, warning signs, and you have enforcement signs. Enforcement signs are erected upright or those that are drawn on the road surface. For example, you have stop sign, one-way sign, and it points in the direction where the one-way is. No U-turn, no parking, no right turn, no entry, a number of signs. If there's no sign that are erected upright, you will see yellow markings painted on curb walls. That constitute no parking, and you should not park in those areas. You park where white painting is drawn on those curb walls. Those are areas where parking is permitted. You have continuous white lines that are drawn on road surface. No motorist should drive to the right of a continuous white line. There are some other signs, especially like along Knutsford Boulevard, where the dual carriageway is, but there is any elevated median. You see something looking like a zebra crossing. Those crossing depicts a median, but a median that is not elevated. If you disobey a stop sign, it carries a fine of $4,000 or 6 demerit points. If you disobey the traffic light, the red light, that too carries $4,000 a fine or 6 demerit points. On the approach of a traffic light, for example, Halfway Tree Road, Chelsea Avenue, by GIS there is no filter light. You are to obey the light, and whenever you get green, you are to proceed. These lights are so configured that they allow for a pedestrian to cross. So when that red light is on, pedestrians are crossing. So that's why a filter light is not put in. When approaching a roundabout, you are to yield to the person to the right. Right? Always allow for that person to go first. A similar thing with a yield sign, a give way sign. You are to yield to the person and allow that person to proceed. If you happen to overtake, you are to do so if the way is clear, and once you complete that maneuver, you are to get back to the left lane and remain there. We have persons anticipating the light. You have those that are anticipating the green, and even before the green comes on, they are off. And you have others who are beating the amber in order to go by as well. And I should tell you this, red means you are to stop, amber means you are to prepare to stop, and green means you are to go if the way is clear.
And remember, always wear your seatbelt.
And the traffic lights till somebody get hurt and the tears start cry. Save a life for the kids, for you and I, save kids' lives. Make the road safe, whether day or night, for pedestrians, passengers, cars and bikes. Save a life for the kids, for you and I. Save kids' lives.
Hey man, it's our job to keep the road them safe. And protect care of the youth them so we know them safe. And obey the road code, don't race. No bother with the speeding case, make face. And check your light them on your tires and brakes. Riders on the pillions who left the helmet. Aye, put on the cell phone, no send no text. No matter what color they on your plate.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, it could save a life. When you're on the road, when you're on the road, I beg you please be safe. Wear your seatbelt for keep you safe, and make sure your helmet's in place when you're on the road.
Partnerships are a critical part of building disaster resilience. And the area where that is evident is in the tracking of hurricanes during the Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June to November each year.
Hurricane Matthew is still a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It is continuing to move northward, which takes it closer and closer to Jamaican waters. More information is coming out from the Hurricane Center.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1 through to November 30. These dates historically describe the period when most tropical cyclones form in the Atlantic basin. A number of tools are used, like satellites, radars, and computer models, to determine where a hurricane will go and how intense it will be. But a critical part of forecasting is done by the specially equipped NOAA aircrafts called Hurricane Hunters, which collect data through high-flying meteorological stations.
That will be transmitted back to the Hurricane Center and then made available to all the region, including Jamaica.
WC-130J Hercules is a high-wing, medium-range aircraft used in weather reconnaissance missions. This plane is configured to penetrate tropical disturbances and storms, as well as hurricanes and winter storms, and get data on the movement, size, and intensity of these systems. The NOAA Gulfstream model, nicknamed Gonzo, is a high-tech, high-flying, and high-speed twin-engine jet that flies around and over developing tropical cyclones to create a detailed picture of the surrounding upper atmosphere. It has a range of nearly 4,000 nautical miles and a cruising altitude of 45,000 feet. The Lockheed model, nicknamed Kermit, is in a class by itself. Formulated with unique scientific instrumentation, radars, and recording systems, the Kermit is able to do horizontal and vertical scans of storms.
So we'll have two meteorologists sit up front there. The person in the left seat is usually verifying the dropson data that we're collecting. The person on the right is helping with navigation. The station behind that is where our radar operator sits. So we've got a radar in the nose and a radar in the tail collecting data for us. This is where all of our data systems reside. And then back here is where we're actually dropping the songs. So we'll prepare one of the songs here, pass it over to that guy. He'll prepare it there just so we have a backup just in case this computer goes dead or that computer goes dead. Once the song is ready to go, close the door.
Cutting through the eye wall of a hurricane, lashed by extreme winds, dazzling rain, and fierce updrafts and downdrafts before entering the calm of the storm, probing every wind and pressure change during the course of 8 to 10 hours. So why aren't these aircrafts torn apart during these flights? Well, they are generally not destroyed by strong winds while in flight. It's the sheer or sudden change in horizontal or vertical winds that can destroy an aircraft or cause its loss of control. That's why NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft don't fly through tornadoes, but they are always monitoring for hotspots of severe weather and shear that they can often identify on radar and avoid if it's too severe.
We are always in direct communication with the National Hurricane Center. As soon as they get the information, we speak to them, they tell us what is happening, and so when we are ready to issue a warning, if we feel that we are threatened, we communicate that to the Hurricane Center. We are ready to issue a warning, what do you think? And we take that decision and they make it public to all the countries, not only in the region, but even wider than that through the internet and other means.
Government recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Carib Cement Company to remove between 1.5 and 2 million tires from the Riverton landfill. Let's hear more about how this venture is helping Jamaica to become the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
We have between 1.5 and 2 million tires at the Riverton City dump that have been causing no ends of problems based on the fact that they are illicitly burned from time to time so that the copper extract can be taken out and, of course, used in the scrap metal industry or trade. And therefore, we have had several major fires that have caused major disruption in the industrial area as well, and most importantly, the people's health that travel and live in that area. So we're going to do a pilot project with the Caribbean Cement Company, who has invested substantially in facilitating these tires to be used. So while we are doing this pilot project, Prime Minister, the work is not over. Minister Mackenzie, the work is not over because we have to find other solutions in relation to dealing with this whole thing holistically, so that not only can we get rid of the backlog of tires, but we can have a system where tires, which average 1,000 a day, that are coming onto the site, can be diverted to a location or for final delivery to cement company. So today is a big step, and it's a first step, and it's a long overdue step.
And that's how we close things off on Jamaica Magazine. Join us tomorrow right here on this station for another informative program. We are available at your leisure online. There's jis.gov.jm, that's our website. There's our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages. And you may also find our mobile app to be a useful tool while you're on the go. I'm Theodore Henry, and on behalf of the entire production team, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
There's only one recommendation for funding that is ever going to come from me, and that is funding from a bank.
This is the cost to build, and it includes every nail and screw for the building.
Our motto is building communities, building a nation.
Get in the know with the world of real estate with Business Access TV's Home Sweet Home, Sundays at 4:30 p.m.
I'm Richard Biles, CEO of Sagicor, and you're watching Business Access.
On this episode of Wealth Magazine Business Access, Managing Director of Biz Tactics Limited, Sandra Glasgow, tells us about her educational pursuits.
So I don't regret the fact that I did a science degree, because
It's really molded the way that I think about problems.
Facilitating the growth of Jamaican businesses.
I get more satisfaction from helping people because there are hundreds of Jamaican businesses who have passed through my hands.
And being committed to nation building.
I just have a lot of passion for the stuff that I do, and I love it. I'm Sandra Glasgow, Managing Director of BizTactics Limited. So I'm the first child, and everybody tells me I'm bossy because of that. You know, my parents were very young when they were married. My mother was 19 and my father was 20. When my mother was 20, I was born, and my other 3 siblings came in quick succession, 1 year after the other. So, and then my parents were divorced pretty early. I think my mother must have been like 26 when she was divorced, with 4 young children. So it was a difficult time growing up, but my mother, Irene, is a very determined woman. She, at one stage, had several jobs just to take care of us. And I think, you know, I'm very much like my mother, very determined, hardworking, very ambitious, but very caring about my family, and that's who my mother was. So I went to Vaz Prep School as a young child, and then when my parents were divorced, my mother couldn't afford to send me to Vaz. So we all went to Providence Primary School, which was in Ligani at the time. It's now New Providence Primary. My mother in those days worked with the University of the West Indies, and we had a really good childhood. My father is from a very large family, the Walter clan from St. Mary. So I always had aunts and uncles to visit in the country. My grandfather owned a large farm, and we would have wonderful summers spending time with him and our aunts and uncles. So, you know, I was always very ambitious. And my siblings will tell you I sort of ruled with an iron hand because my mother was always busy at work. And I remember at 9, I used to go home and start cooking the dinner because we didn't have a helper. And I had to look after my siblings. So I learned very early how to take care of myself. I went to St. Hugh's High School. I got a scholarship from Providence Primary to St. Hugh's in 1967, and I enjoyed St. Hugh's very much. My 2 sisters, Denise and Claudia, also went there. My brother went to Jamaica College. And when I guess I was about 14, my now husband, my husband of 40 years in fact, came to live beside us in Mona. He was our next door neighbor, and we didn't actually have a fence between our homes. So, and we became fast friends. I was sort of introducing him to Kingston. He hadn't lived in Kingston before. And that blossomed into a relationship, and I was engaged when I was, I think I was 18 and a half years old. I was engaged to be married. And we got married when I was 20 in August 1976. So at St. Hugh's, I really enjoyed the sciences. And so in sixth form, I was doing biology, I think it was, and chemistry and physics. But I also enjoyed the languages. I was very good at French. I was French verse-speaking champion for many years. And when I was at St. Hugh's in 4th form, they introduced a novel program where some of the girls could do some O-levels in 4th form. So I attempted 3 O-levels, and I was successful. So that allowed me space to take on another subject when I was in 5th form. And so I took up Spanish and did Spanish at O-level in 1 year. So I not only did the sciences, but I enjoyed the languages as well. So I actually left St. Hugh's at the end of lower 6 because my mother was the assistant registrar for student affairs at UWI. And I realized that with my O-levels, I could get into the N1 program in the Faculty of Natural Sciences. So that's what I did, and I pursued a Bachelor of Science degree and my majors are actually zoology, marine biology, and applied botany. Those were my majors. But my father had a group of companies. He was always in business, and he told me that he wanted me to come work with him. So I had a job as soon as I graduated. So I went to work with my dad as general manager for a company called MFV Limited Trading as Garden Foods. And we made and bottled Solomon Gundy, a hot sauce, a brown sauce, and pickles. And we exported those products to Trinidad and the rest of the Caribbean. It was a very interesting journey because having graduated from university, I had never done business. I had no business subjects on the, as part of my education. So I had to learn fast. I remember doing a marketing course at the Institute of Management and Production, and I essentially taught myself accounting. I took the accounting books and I went through them page by page and taught myself accounting. So working with my father was very interesting because I hadn't really grown up with him and I really revered him. I loved him very much. So when he invited me to work with him, I was really excited about that. In fact, one of the areas that I specialize in now is family business governance. And a lot of the things that I do with my clients today are things that mistakes that my father made in his business that I don't want anybody else to make. My father, I think, ran his businesses, in a very lifestyle manner. So the resources of the business would be used for his personal things, and he was a good Jamaican man, if you know what I mean. So, he and I sort of butted heads over some of those things. It was interesting because I was a general manager for this particular company and he was the managing director. And I would give my staff instructions in the morning and he would walk through the back door and give them instructions that were totally opposite to what I had told them. So it sometimes became quite testy between us. And after I spent 4 years with him, I said, I think this is it. I don't think that he really was ready to give up any control at all. And it was untenable for me to be running the company and not, sort of agreeing with him on how things should go. And that's a lesson that I have shared with a lot of my clients, because when you are starting, if you've started a business, at some point you have to get professional management in place. The founder can't run all of these businesses, and grow them successfully. And I would say to him, but Dad, I've gone to university, I've been trained, I know what I'm doing. And he would say, well, I went to the University of Life. So we parted company after 4 years, and I went on to do other things. I really tried to find a job after I left my dad, and I could not find a job. It was very difficult because I really wanted to go out to work.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
So there's a story I tell my students all the time, because after I left my dad, by this time I had 2 young children, 2 daughters, and my husband wanted me to stay home to look after them. And I had resisted that, all along. I didn't want to do that, but I really tried to find a job after I left my dad, and I could not find a job. So I said, okay, I'll stay home with the girls. And it was very difficult because I really wanted to go out to work. And I remember my husband giving me a stipend, and I lived on South Avenue, and I would go down to Lee's Fifth Avenue. I had spent the stipend one time, and I then didn't have any money to put gas in the car or do some of the other things I needed to do. And I remember once going to him and saying, well, I need some more money, and he gave me a lecture about money management. So I said, oh no. So I said, you know what, I have got to find a job because this isn't going to work. My neighbor worked with an international organization called ICA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. And they were hosting a conference, and she needed somebody to address envelopes for 2 weeks. She was offering me a job, paying $250 a week, and my husband was giving me a stipend of $700 for the week. So I thought, well, $500 plus $700, I'm set, So I took the job, and I finished addressing the envelopes in 3 days. And I said to my boss, who was an American woman, what next? And she said, okay, help me with this aspect of the conference planning. And then I finished that, and she said, help me with this other thing. And soon enough, the conference came around, and they asked me to stay on to help them with the execution of the conference. And at the end of it, I got an offer to work as a national professional with ICA. I don't regret the fact that I did a science degree because it's really molded the way that I think about problems. I look at them very scientifically, in fact. I do the analysis, I come up with solutions. So I never regretted that I did the sciences, but I very much enjoyed business. When I worked with my dad, I just loved the idea that we were making products, that people were being employed, that we were exporting these products to other markets. And then when I transitioned into entrepreneurial education, I really loved sharing with other people and helping people to think about business in a different way. And when I spent 20 years at CAST / it later became UTech, and people would always say to me, why aren't you, if you're so passionate about business, why aren't you running your own business? And I would always say to them, listen, I get more satisfaction from helping people because there are hundreds hundreds of Jamaican businesses who have passed through my hands. So I started my company after I left the PSOJ in 2013, in May 2013 in fact. And you know, when I left PSOJ, I decided I wasn't going to get another job. I thought I'd really had enough knowledge under my belt, and I was doing exciting things. I had done a number of things at PSOJ, particularly supporting SMEs. And so BizTactics really is, our tagline is supporting growth aspiring firms. And I do that through a number of interventions. One is corporate governance, because I believe that if a company doesn't have good governance, it's not going to grow effectively. So as I said earlier, I work with companies to set up their boards and to make, to bring in accountability and transparency and discipline. A number of small businesses don't have financial statements, they don't know where they are, they don't have strategic plans, so we work with companies to prepare their strategic plans. We help with the policies, the sort of operational framework that they need. And what I say to the companies that I work with, and most of them are really aspiring to become big businesses in the future. Some of them are hoping to list on the stock exchange. And I say to them, if you install these governance processes early, you will have the level of discipline and the accountability that will propel your company to growth. So that's what I do. I'm a trained trainer, so I'm trained in ethics for SMEs. I am knowledgeable about business incubation and acceleration, knowledgeable about angel investing. So I bring all of this knowledge base to bear in my work for BizTactics. One of my great desires is to see our economy grow. We've had so many years of economic stagnation. I mean, we're seeing the green shoots now. But I firmly believe that significant growth is only going to come through private sector endeavors. So, you know, the more companies we have starting and growing, the more the economy is going to grow. More people are going to be employed. Those companies are going to pay more taxes. We're going to, you know, create innovations, and we're going to put Jamaica on the map. I would say the last 30 years of my work has been towards this end. And so I have been doing a lot of work to look at the whole ecosystem for developing businesses in Jamaica. The DBJ is doing a great job, by the way, of pulling a number of the players together to make sure that whatever gaps exist are filled. And there are a number of things that I think we still need to do. Entrepreneurial education, I think, ought to start in the primary schools and be available in the secondary schools and at universities. I just have a lot of passion for the stuff that I do, and I love it. I love what I do. It's not hard to be motivated because I really love the work that I do.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
I'm in my home office at 4 o'clock most mornings. People will tell you that they get emails from me at 3:30 or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. That's how I work. And I get my best work done very early in the morning. But I just have a lot of passion for the stuff that I do, and I love it. I love what I do, so it's not hard to be motivated because I really love the work that I do. I tell people that I'm a covert feminist. And I really have always been helping my fellow female entrepreneurs and women in general to get ahead. This is, although we're described as a matriarchal society, men rule this economy, this country. So, one of the things I try to do is to get more women on boards, for example, because I think men and women bring different skills and attitudes to business. And I think a balance of genders is really important for business. So I wouldn't really say it's been a challenge or a problem, but breaking that glass ceiling can sometimes be difficult, and I have been in many situations where women are sort of stereotyped. That really gets me. My colleagues on the boards I sit on will tell you that. I'm not a stereotypical woman. I'm sort of not in the kitchen, although I like cooking. I'm a professional woman, so I really despise when men in particular try to put me in a box or try to keep me down. But it doesn't bother me really. I have done a lot of work with charities. I used to be on the board of Dress for Success Jamaica, and I really loved doing that. In 2010, when I was at the PSOJ, I worked very closely with Joe Matalon to start Youth, and I'm on the board of Youth now. It's actually been taken over by the ICD group, and I've done a lot of work. I've mentored the young people in the youth program, and I continue to support youth financially as well as giving them moral support. My daughter is actually the executive director of youth now, my daughter Alicia. I've also served on the board of Junior Achievement Jamaica, and I continue to support Alfie Mullins-Aiken in the work that she does with Junior Achievement. And I give to my church and the Cancer Society, but youth is really the main vehicle through which I do my philanthropy now. So for me, wealth is more than having money. I think having money is important because you want to live, and I enjoy living a certain lifestyle. But all of that would be nothing if I didn't have my family. I'm very, very, very family oriented. I've been married to the same guy for 40 years. And we have a wonderful relationship. We have 2 lovely daughters. Lorianne is head of marketing for Digicel in Trinidad. And my younger daughter, Alicia, is executive director for youth. And Alicia has gifted us with our first grandchild, Kai, my buddy who sees my WhatsApp. profile will know that I'm a Nana, and Nana loves Sky. And I also have some very close friends. My closest friend is Ambassador Margaret Jobson, who is our ambassador in Germany. I met her when I went to Providence Primary, and we have been best of friends ever since. That was 1966. And I have other close friends, particularly girlfriends. We get together now and then. We celebrate each other's birthdays. I have a lot of acquaintances, but I would say I have a small number of real friends. And some of the people I work with, Joe Matalan is the chairman of my company, and he and his family are very, very dear to me. And my siblings. So I make time for all of those elements, those aspects of my life. I exercise, I should do more, but exercise is important. I love to party. Give me 70s music and I will dance all night. My friends will tell you that we love to go up into the hills and have picnics, and my husband and I have decided that we're going to try out every hotel in Jamaica. So we frequently, go for weekends with the family, and I just have a really blessed life.
The Caribbean is a rich biodiversity hotspot. It has over 11,000 plant species, and about 72 of these are found only in this region. This richness also extends to the Caribbean people. Their traditional knowledge of the region's varied natural resources has integrated nature into the economic and health sectors worldwide. It has also drawn many to research and use the region's biodiversity for medicinal, cosmetic, and pharmaceutical purposes. For example, the glaucoma medication Canasol is made from cannabis. However, Caribbean islands have fallen prey to biopiracy, where a country's resources are accessed and developed commercially, but the country gets little or no benefit from it. As the world benefits from the Caribbean's biodiversity, countries need to be compensated for their commercial use. Lawmakers need to ensure that their countries are legally prepared to give access to and benefits from commercial use of genetic resources. To ensure prior informed consent and mutually agreed terms of access established by the Nagoya Protocol, the Global Environment Facility, GEF, United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, are jointly providing support to countries at different levels in order to advance towards functional access and benefit sharing. Under the Nagoya Protocol, countries from which natural resources are obtained for commercial developments are entitled to compensation. It also ensures indigenous knowledge from groups such as the Maroons, Rastafarians, and Amerindians can be credited and compensated if their traditional knowledge has been used for commercial purposes. Caribbean islands are putting the Nagoya Protocol in their legislative framework to safeguard their country's biodiversity and traditional knowledge. Let us all work together to protect our resources, do valuable research, and reap the benefits of sustainable bioprospecting in the region.
My name is Christella Harris. You're watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Crime, corruption, and criminal justice. AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce, is shining a light on these topics here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in a luncheon that's looking at how these affect Jamaica's trade and investment potential. I'm Elon Parkinson. Let's take a look at the highlights.
One of the things that I realize is that having these forums, it provides us with an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. And all members should give your organization a round of applause. Put your hands together for it. For weeks, I was talking about business unusual. For weeks, that was the last one on the economy that you guys had. And I was in cocktail conversation sounding smarter than I am just by virtue of having been in the room. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. I'm going to apologize for the National Security Minister, Dr. Horace Chang. He did intend to be here, but he was called at the last minute to Parliament. I believe he has a parliamentary committee that he must be at, so they've summoned him. You know, the numbers are important in these committees to make quorum and to participate in discussions at Gordon House, so he won't be with us today. The DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, is here. Thank you very much for being here with us today, as is Dirk Harrison, the acting head of the Corruption Prosecution Division at the Integrity Commission. Always glad to have Professor Anthony Clayton, a respected criminologist, here with us today. Jason Fraser is the country rep of the USAID. Thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing their presentations later today. At this time, I'm going to invite Alison Peart, the president of AmCham of Jamaica, to give the official welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. You know, we look so officious and so quiet. It's very, very important business, but I'm hoping today you're going to learn a lot more. You're going to leave here understanding more about some of the issues and, more importantly, with some solutions. Because it's one thing to speak about our issues, but if we don't find a solution, we're just a talk shop. And I love Nationwide on the radio, but we don't just want to talk. We want to come up with some solutions. So as the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Jamaica, we thought it very important. We talk about how wonderful the economy was. Our last session was business unusual. But if we have crime issues, if people don't feel, Jamaicans don't feel comfortable going about their daily lives, if our foreign investors don't feel comfortable, if our children, who are our future, have issues, where are we as a nation? So we thought it very important to bring together a panel that would engage in the dialogue about crime, corruption, criminal justice. How does it affect our trade and investment? Because it makes no sense to talk about our GDP growing or our debt to GDP if we're dying. It makes no sense if our future is tied to crime. So this dialogue is very, 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 very important, and I am very happy you're here with us.
Okay, the question today is how much crime and corruption and a dysfunctional justice system are actually inhibiting the development of Jamaica and inward investment. Because we don't just have one problem, we have quite a complex array of problems. And it's quite hard to know how much we should attribute to any one of these and how much any one of these is contributing to what has historically been a very low rate of growth and significant difficulties in attracting inward investment and retaining domestic capital and retaining human capital. These are the headline ones. We have one of the highest rates of violence in the world. We have a large number, a significant number Of gangs, about 80% of our homicide are gang-related. The rest are primarily domestic violence. So the fact that we have a large number of gangs is clearly a major factor in maintaining one of the world's highest levels of homicide. There are fundamental challenges still in our system of governance. As I'll be going on to say in a few minutes, we have people in public life who help to create this problem with gangs and high levels of violence, and that link has never been yet severed, and that is still a challenge that we have yet to face. What, of course, that does is it undermines the moral authority of government. If you have a situation where all the bad guys are out there and everybody in government is honest and competent, it's not really very difficult to deal with the problems of crime. The problem is when the boundaries between the two are blurred, and when you have criminals who are getting high-level political protection. At that point, it's much, much harder to deal with the issues. Of course, what that feeds is a culture of cynicism, low trust, and that has a great deal to do with sustaining a high level of violence. In any country where you see that people do not trust the police and do not trust the justice system, they're much more likely to have recourse to violence to solve their issues and disputes. So it's partly reflecting the fact that we've still got deep weaknesses in our system of governance. But let's put this in a little context. There's only one demographic for whom violence is the leading cause of premature morbidity, which is young males, late teens, early 20s. For every other demographic, it's actually cheeseburgers that are more likely to kill you. We've got issues with, like every other country, with steeply rising rates of non-communicable diseases. And we can't also forget the fact that we have perennial challenges with energy security, increasingly with water security, which is related, because years ago we made the decision that everybody must be on a piped water supply, which means that we're now committed to a program of pumping water up hillsides, which means that if our energy system goes down, our water system goes down too. In hindsight, perhaps that wasn't a very good decision. So we've got issues with energy, water security, and more generally food and access to resources. We live in a seismically active part of the world. We live in the hurricane belt. There's challenges with emerging exotic diseases, and of course we've got a background issue really serious now, as people have started to realize with climate change. You may have heard that this summer is the hottest ever recorded in Jamaica's history. And in fact, there's now real grounds for concern that we've gone past an irrevocable point, and that we will not ever revert back to the low temperatures of the past. So this is something that we may now have to make a permanent adjustment to.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
One of our highest priorities of the U.S. government in Jamaica is to work with our counterparts to interdict Jamaican and Caribbean-based transnational criminal activity, including narcotics and arms trafficking, trafficking in persons, and financial fraud targeting U.S. citizens. The U.S. government has also invested heavily in supporting anti-corruption initiatives with the civil society and Jamaican government, as well as supported improvements in the justice system. In total, the U.S. government invests about $12 million in security-related programming annually, which does not include all the various partnerships and collaborations that our various U.S. government agencies have with their counterparts. In fact, USAID Jamaica just advertised a broad agency announcement to co-design our flagship community violence prevention activity with key stakeholders such as the government, academia, and private sector. This unique co-creation approach encourages key stakeholders to co-create and deliver the services that are vital to prevent youth crime and violence at the community level. Law enforcement and criminal justice are important to controlling crime, as we all know, and corruption. But we also have to address the underlying social challenges that both cause and contribute to crime. Within the broad range of U.S. cooperation on crime, and this is where USAID comes in, we partner with the government and civil society on a range of programs to address the root causes of crime in Jamaica. So in the area of community safety and security, and building upon past successes with community-based policing, USAID focuses on the strengthening of community-based and civil society organizations, the promotion of community-driven activities, the development of long-term champions of a culture of lawfulness, and the enhancement of ministries, departments, and agencies of the state to be more community-oriented institutions. In this way, we believe that we contribute to building safer communities, strengthening social cohesion, and improving civic engagement participation. USAID also works with holistic youth-friendly approaches that aims to assist at-risk youth in becoming active citizens through the engagement of different social, educational, behavioral, and recreational activities. This approach includes 3 main areas regarding youth involved in criminality: prevention, intervention, and rehabilitation, including diversion activities as alternatives to traditional incarceration for first-time offenders. Youth also develop skills through educational programs which introduce them to fundamental concepts in business, economics, individual accountability, and entrepreneurship. USAID expects that life skills and technical training will increase opportunities for at-risk youth to work within the legitimate economy, thereby reducing the likelihood of involvement in gang and criminal activity. In Jamaica, relationships with key public sector, private sector, and donor agency partners are being leveraged to create programs to build skills and to identify work options for youth. USAID also works in the youth remandee centers, which includes case management follow-up to facilitate at-risk youth acquiring job and education opportunities when they are released. In the area of corruption, the Combating Corruption in Jamaica project has not only built public demand for more effective action against corruption through awareness campaigns, but has also provided training to government and civil society partners to build capacity and increase advocacy. The project is expected to have an impact on the nation's capacity and the ability to effectively control instances of and attitudes towards corruption in general and political corruption in particular. So what's the role of the private sector in addressing the root causes? That's why we're all here today. Many of you are representing private sector organizations. How can the private sector be a key partner in addressing some of these root causes? Obviously, many of you are part of the community, and so you have an interest. Your company is often affected by the high rates of crime and corruption. So it's important that government, international partners who support government, NGOs, and the private sector work together to address these issues. We've all been to various forums on issues surrounding crime in Jamaica. I think the private sector here needs to continue to ask itself what it is doing to address the issue. Clearly, advocacy is important to press for resources, accountability, and support in combating crime. But there's much more that can be done to invest in communities to make them safer and create opportunities for the next generation to be prosperous. Looking ahead, we welcome the opportunity to increase our engagement with the private sector on these challenges because of the energy and innovation that they typically bring to the table. USAID is a learning agency, and we are constantly exploring how to improve our work and increase our impact. So as we streamline our programs and look for new strategic partners, we invite the private sector to partner with us as we both work towards the common goal of helping Jamaicans thrive.
There's this sense of a godlike syndrome that during some transactions an oversight body must lap its tail or virtually hold its corner in the name of investment. There are different roles for each stakeholder. Each must stay in their lane and accept criticism when constructively made. On the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, potential investors, in fact, should be happy that the business environment observes the rule of law and that democracy flourishes with built-in checks and balances. If I were an investor about to enter Jamaica, it's incumbent on me and my handlers to look out for red flags and indicators of the environment. I name a few on a list that is not exhaustive. 1, determine the role of the oversight body. It must be effective, efficient, fearless, and it must be respected. What, if any, comment does the oversight body have to say on a process or an investment opportunity that you wish to enter? The engagement, ladies and gentlemen, of investors and investor confidence, existing and thriving, must be viewed on a virtual 2-lane highway. That is a 2-way street with rules and guidelines being applicable. 2, does the police service support and protect local and non-Jamaican community members? Do they communicate with all persons? Are they accessible at all times? Maintain a presence that the visitor or citizen believes and recognizes that if they do wrong, they'll be detected. But lines of communication must always be in place. For too long in this blessed country, the notion exists that unless someone knows you and you not knowing them, nothing will happen. That needs to end. In a time of real emergency, the joke is told, unless you have on speed dial a member of the police force, the response time to a complaint is sometimes unacceptable. Another thing that I would think an investor would look for, there must be a criminal justice system that is efficient and effective, and we must congratulate the learned Chief Justice for the renaissance and the role of the DPP's office in the renaissance that is taking place now. But we must also have financial services, a banking system, healthcare facilities. They must be adequate, to name a few components. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, on Jamaica's stock exchange record, Michael Reagan, writing in Bloomberg Business Week, January 18, 2019, states the Jamaican Stock Exchange is the world's best performing. Its outperformance over the past 5 years is even more striking. Jamaica's stocks have surged almost 300%, more than quadrupling the next best performing national benchmark and septupling the S&P Standard & Poor's 500's advance. I make bold to say that the very important successes must be highlighted, with all the negatives on crime and violence reported in the last 48 hours in Jamaica. Also, the awards in the tourism sector must also be celebrated. However, we must do better. Ladies and gentlemen, what are some of the solutions? Government agencies must work together all the time and set aside jealousies and petty matters which have no place in a professional setting. Interagency cooperation and collaboration must be emphasized and practiced. We must build bridges and stop tearing down, emasculating, and ridiculing persons. The fact that you do not agree is no reason to disrespect. Professionalism is non-negotiable. We must have a review of the timelines to review governance structures. Oftentimes, pieces of legislation give you 3 years to review a legislation. You see in 1 year, nothing is happening. The parliamentary caucus needs to do something about that. We must enhance whistleblowing regimes and encourage the discourse, changing the discourse to, in my words, informer for live. Stop saying informer for dead, informer for live. I must admit, I'm an informer. I'm a proud one. I'm an informer. Tell me something today, I'm going to tell the police tomorrow. We need to modernize the law enforcement units and bring outstanding laws into operation. We need public education to sensitize the world that the perception of corruption or actual is not a reflection of the overwhelming majority of law-abiding Jamaicans. We need to ensure that the police and our oversight bodies work to regain public trust. The police must maintain presence not just in hotspots, but also generally. It will help to rebuild issues of insecurity. I pause here as I listen to Professor Clayton. In the last month, I visited Cayman. The police carry no guns. A year before, I went to Turks and Caicos. The police had no guns. I visited Grenada a few times. The police had no guns. They have their problems, but I felt safe. I am walking in this, my beloved country, and we're turning and looking behind us every minute. But our Caribbean neighbors, and Professor Clayton showed us the figures, I feel safe. We need to look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, as I close, I reiterate that the government of Jamaica, the ministries, the departments, the statutory bodies, to name a few, must work united to create that package, that which is seen by the outside world, with all the various components and elements that they look at, and which they consider, and which will have the effect to harness growth and encourage investor confidence. But most importantly, we must leave our partners with the belief that integrity is non-negotiable. Honesty is paramount, not by word of mouth, but by our actions. And despite our problems, crime and corruption, that they can and humbly should consider investing in our country to bring about change for good. Acknowledging that the improvement of the basic standards of life may have the effect of changing behavior, but I readily admit we can't legislate for good behavior.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point with Kalila Reynolds and Dennis Chung. Dissecting the issues, offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
In respect of what it takes to inspire confidence, I'm a plain speaker, and I will say, I believe that what is happening in our country, education is the key. I believe that a lot of our children, some of those who come from environments where they are victims of poor and dysfunctional parenting, we need to reintroduce civics in all its forms back within the schools, from the time of the basic school, because there are a lot of our children. People complain that, okay, are the schools not doing enough? But they may go to school, the teachers try their best, and they go back into an environment that is like a black hole of nothingness, because there's no value system, no values, positive values and attitudes. And yet if you take that child and you put that child in another environment, you have intervention, positive intervention, you would be surprised to see the beautiful diamond coming from the rough. So I'm really a big believer in education. Now, another pet peeve of mine is that, and I prosecute police officers, I do not subscribe to the throwing the baby with the bathwater. approach. Everybody knows their functions best. But I am not a public official who believes, unless it is necessary in the interests of justice, to make gratuitous comments in terms of seeking to tear down my colleagues anywhere. And I am not into using speculation to put out there to join the call for crucify him, crucify her in the public domain, where you have the court of public opinion demanding, just like the little old ladies who were knitting at the time in The Tale of Two Cities and saying for the noblemen, chop off their heads. I am not into that. At the Director of Public Prosecution's Office, we deal with two things: the law and evidence. Personal emotion, personalities, we are not into it. So even if the court of public opinion or any other opinion would like to see the guillotined head of an individual on a platter, if there is no evidence to prosecute, to mount a viable prosecution, then as a matter of law, we have to say so. And I will say, and it's the first time I'm saying it publicly, first time, and I say it with the greatest of respect, that this is why on occasion, when I've been asked privately, I have registered privately a concern when you have no firewall between agencies that both investigate and prosecute. Because if you are not careful, you run away in the court of public opinion, and the court of law has to catch up. And by the time it gets to court, after a lot of reputational damage has been done, when you look at it, and the defense counsel gets up and says, they are putting the prosecution in limine to prove what is there. The judge asks, and when you pare away what is there, there's nothing there as a matter of law. So sometimes in the court of public opinion, the members of the public would want to see one thing, but both the police and I know that in the court of law, it's either you have to have cogent, credible, reliable, admissible evidence. If you don't have it, then no matter how egregious the conduct of an individual is, then you don't have a case. Then you have to look at the second layer in terms of governance and accountability. And this is where public opinion, civil society can force the government of the day to make sure that all the particular oversight agencies, that they have teeth, that they are well structured, and that the will, the political will is there to make sure that the teeth are not rickety in the oversight agencies, but they can stand up. In other words, if you put a piece of cane in the mouth of the teeth of that oversight agency, the teeth won't come out. It is the cane that will suffer damage.
Riveting perspectives and indeed sobering statistics coming from the AmCham empaneled team here at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. You're watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
We are serious about the business of real estate, so catch Home Sweet Home Sundays at 4:30 p.m. or if you missed it, check our website at batvja.com.
history of dietetics can be traced as far back as the writings of Homer, Plato, and Hippocrates in ancient Greece. Although diet and nutrition continued to be judged important for health, dietetics did not progress much until the 19th century with the advances in chemistry. The profession was given a boost during the Second World War when its importance was recognized by the military. Today, professional dietetic associations can be found on every continent, and registered dietitians are involved in health promotion and treatment and work alongside physicians. The growing need for dietetics professionals is driven by a growing public interest in nutrition and the potential of functional foods to prevent a variety of diet-related conditions. So, we had a chat with the program director for dietetics at UTEC on this episode of Career Moves.
I'm Ava Simpson. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm currently serving as the program director for the Dietetics and Nutrition course of study at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Dietetics and nutrition is a combined field. What we're looking at is the nutritional status of individuals. So the dietetics and nutrition look at managing that nutritional status. The nutrition component we tend to think of as dealing with well people. The dietetics we tend to more think of dealing with sick persons. But they are combined and they both support each other.
Dietitians apply the science of human nutrition to help people understand the relationship between food and health in making the right dietary choices, so they can often be found working in various sectors.
You will mainly find the dietitians working in hospitals. You can find them in industries as well. There are several areas of work, but the one that is more common and persons tend to be used to seeing is the clinical dietitians or those working in hospitals. So you will find that the clinical dietitians, they will look about the nutritional status of the individual, and they tend to also administer the food service sections in the hospital as well. You can find a media dietitian, you can find a dietitian doing promotions for a group of supermarkets. I'm in education. You can find them in marketing. You can find them in product development, in science. So there are quite a number of areas that you can find the dietitians.
Ava notes that the job is not gender neutral, but oftentimes it's the passion to help individuals make better choices which leads people to studying dietetics.
We are not very specific about who can become. As long as you can matriculate and meet the requirements, you can become a dietitian. And it's not gender specific either. In looking at many of the applications that I get in, most of them have a passion for looking about individuals and want to look at the nutritional health of individuals. So what you find is that looking at the epidemiological profile of the population, what we are saying is many of the illnesses are related to diet, what people eat. And therefore, many persons become interested when they find out how important what you eat and how you eat is to your health. Many persons tend to lean towards wanting to do the science. I was applying for university and not sure where I wanted to go. I knew it was something in the medical field, but not exactly sure what it is that I wanted. And therefore, I met Heather Little-White, and she introduced the profession to me. She said, you could go to, it was then CAST, and do the program at CAST, and then you could go on to complete the degree and become a dietitian. I did not develop as a straight path in dietetics. I did a diploma in dietetics and nutrition from the then CAST, College of Arts, Science and Technology, and then I went on to work as a paraprofessional in the hospital. So I started working at the Conway Regional Hospital, and I worked there for many years as a food service manager. I left and went into industry for a number of years, and then the passion beckoned. The call to come back to dietetics beckoned. And so when UTech started offering the degree towards completing for a registration, I applied, completed the degree, and the Ministry of Health offered an internship. So I went into the internship program and completed as a dietitian. I also started working as a dietitian at the Conway Regional Hospital and the Western Regional Health Authority.
She shares what goes into the daily preparation and day-to-day affairs of a dietitian.
As I said, there are several arms of the dietetics profession, so you might find yourself in promotion, in administrative dietetics. In administrative dietetics, in, say, a hospital, what we would normally be looking at is producing the meals. So we look at preparation and production of the meals. Our need comes from the patients on the ward. So we are going to prepare meals according to the needs for the patients on the ward, or whoever the hospital is catering to at that time. So we would look about that, and you could look at the whole production, food production there for meals. The other section is going to be the clinical section, where we would either be sitting in the clinics or the patient would come to us in our offices for counseling. So we could be doing nutrition education to the clients out there, or we could also be doing the in-depth nutritional assessment for individual clients. We are fulfilling a great need, and it is sometimes sad when we spend so much in the curative areas when we should be spending a lot more on prevention.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
All human life is precious. Respect life. No more senseless killing. No more.
I think so, because what you see is a westernizing of our diet, because back then, our diet used to be more complex. And now with the ease of obtaining meals and the affordability, we have a lot of communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension.
Well, a lot of information as
they don't necessarily know the right way to go about doing this. So a dietitian would assist in this regard.
Dietetics is a vital, growing field open to creativity and opportunity, and the possibilities are endless. So students, upon entering UTech, are expected to meet the matriculation requirements.
So the prerequisites for matriculation to this university, we require at least five CSEC or equivalent. So that's math, English, chemistry, biology, or human and social biology, and one other science subject.
But what happens when you've entered through the gates of UTech?
So now that they're at UTech, they have to complete the university's requirement for a degree, and then we do what is called the core modules for the professional group. And so we would look in depth at chemistries, nutritional biochemistry. We have to do all the nutrition coming up. So we start from basic nutrition onto advanced nutrition. And we also have to look at the clinical aspect. So we want to look at the clinical nutrition aspect as well. So all of those would come into the training for persons. After you come to UTech and you graduate now, we are giving a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics and Nutrition. They require the 1-year supervised practice or practicum or clinical practice. After that, UTech is also currently offering that equivalent program, which we call a postgraduate diploma in dietetics and nutrition. So they can do the 4-year degree, go on to the postgraduate degree, diploma, and then complete their full training to become a dietitian. The Northern Caribbean University, they also offer a degree in dietetics and nutrition.
Dietitians play a key role in the management of diseases and
I once read that if we could tackle the obesity problem, then it would be well worth the time spent in training. And therefore, you could well imagine that obesity is central to all the chronic illnesses and therefore could really prevent obesity in our society. In preventing obesity and many of the chronic illnesses, we are looking at productivity, we are looking at cost in the healthcare system, and therefore the final analysis is the budget and the cost it takes to manage all of these illnesses. We are fulfilling a great need, and it is sometimes sad when we don't look more at the preventative aspect of managing many of these illnesses, and we spend so much in the curative areas when we should be spending a lot more on prevention. The nutrition interventions and the interventions by the dietitians in preventing many of these illnesses could be very, very valuable to our society.
However, in Jamaica, the field is not fully utilized and could see room for further employment.
The traditional areas, we may say, are a bit saturated at this time. We recognize that the ratio for dietitians to population is very, very low in this society, so we are not meeting, so we are not seeing a need for them. But if we should look at international standards, then we would really recognize that we have a much greater need for persons to work in this area. We have not tapped into many of the non-traditional areas where dietitians are needed. So we are not there as much into the research areas. We are not there as much into the food industries, into the agricultural areas, into the school feeding programs. We have not even tapped into those areas as yet. So there is great, great need and potential for growth for the persons in this area. We do get a fair amount of applicants for the program. We get more than we would need on a yearly basis. And they come in and they are very, very passionate about what they really want to do for the population in terms of looking at the nutritional health of persons.
Well, when it comes to job security, Ava says no job is ever secure.
I am not sure about job security. There are no jobs that are very, very secure. Those persons who work in the government system, they tend to want that security of tenure in those areas. But in other areas, it depends on where you work. If you go to an industry that is growing and you have proved your worth in those areas, then you could see yourself being there for quite a while. We really need persons to understand the roles and functions of dietitians and what they do and how they can assist individuals.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show. And Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Our women are the backbone of our society. They deserve to be protected and respected. Domestic violence is not okay. Speak up and speak out. No more violence against women.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Dietitians work with groups and also on an individual basis with patients of all ages, so a number of key skills are required.
Key skills, we're going to look at critical thinking. Somebody must be able to look, analyze information, because once you collect all of that information about the individual, you look at assessment and then you will have to draw conclusions. And from this conclusion, now you're going to plan for this individual, and then you are now going to implement that information. So I would say critical thinking skills is very, very important in this particular area. We also want persons who can find accurate information, be able to probe deeply and be able to pull out accurate information from persons. We really need persons to understand the roles and functions of dietitians and what they do and how they can assist individuals. Too often when clients come to see me, they come at the end of the road and they keep asking, why wasn't I sent before, or why didn't I know about your services before, or so. So we tend to get them at the end of the road. We want to get them early, before disease start prevention. We want to get them early in the course so that we can manage to prevent other complications. And if they come later in the day, we want to get them when we can do something for them. We don't want to get them at the end of the road when there's hardly anything we can do. We can just make their lives comfortable.
Graduates are prepared for work in a wide range of areas, including private practice, patient and clinic care.
I see a number of persons getting jobs. We work as medical professionals, and therefore a lot goes on in the medical field. We want to see the persons going out into the industry areas, being able to provide, because if we are going to be asking persons to choose certain types of foods, we want a supportive environment, so we want to be able to see persons' products out there that are low salt, that are low sugar, that are appropriate in the potassium content. We want to be able to tell persons how to eat and to make sure that the agricultural produce do meet their requirements. So we want persons in those areas to make sure that our products are good quality products, and that after we recommend all of this, persons will be able to eat and be nutritionally well. I think for the purposes of this, I'm going to say the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist is based on their academic development. Now, the dietitian would have gone through the 4-year degree in dietetics and nutrition, done the internship, and then moved on to register as a dietitian. The nutritionist here in Jamaica comes in at a different level. They come in with a master's level, and they are more prepared for group development of group programs, prepared for the research areas, and so forth. So there is a very complementary role for the dietitians and nutritionists here in Jamaica.
Knowledge of nutrition and healthy foods is just one component. But what about the misconceptions?
There is opportunities for growth and development. We can see, as I said, in Jamaica, we are just starting out, so there is a lot in terms of product development. There's a lot in terms of research. There is quite a bit in terms of marketing of the services for these individuals. I'm not sure if you have seen any dietitian working with a chain of supermarkets as yet, which would be something that would give persons on-the-spot information and so forth. So there is quite a bit that could happen as it relates to development and scope for these persons. And we didn't even talk about the changing nature of how we would want to change the food service industry. Because if we are going to promote that persons should make healthy choices, if they want a low-fat choice, that low-fat choice must be on offer for them to be able to access those low-fat, low-sugar, and so choices. Compensation is based on where you work and the level that you are at. So somebody starting out very junior is going to start out with a junior salary. So if you're a paraprofessional with the government in the technical services, that is what you would get at the paraprofessional level. And at the professional level where the dietitians start, you would be getting the same as, say, the pharmacists or the radiographers or so, the same basic salary in those areas. So it's comparable to those other paramedic professions that they would get. And as persons move on to different areas, depending on where you're at, you could command your good or better salaries.
AVA is calling out the government to take a step in assisting this field in further developing its growth in Jamaica.
As said, we are hoping that we could look at the ratio of dietitians to population. In Jamaica, we are nowhere near the ratio that we should be. So if the government look in that way, and I want to be bold and to say to them, if they do not look at the nutritional health of the population, they would not be achieving their goals for Vision 2030, and therefore they must look at the contributions that should come from dietitians and nutritionists in terms of meeting those goals. And in every area that they want to think of, the dietitians and the nutritionists are important. We were harping on a number of the areas, but if we look at the life cycle, we want to look at pre-birth, before the child is born. There is a role to play with that pregnant mother. There is even a role to play even before the woman becomes pregnant. So we're looking at pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, at birth for these children into that first year of life. We're looking at the other years following. We're looking at teenage or adolescent period. We're looking at the adult period, the elderly, where we would see a number of the chronic illnesses coming in. So if we want to look at even the scope, we could look at just the life cycle area, and we could see that there is quite a bit of scope for this profession.
And as always, here are some tips in getting ahead.
Students who want to become dietitians should think about the chemistry. They should look at the chemistry modules at school. If we are going to be studying the body, then we are looking a lot at the bodily processes, and chemistry is very important to that study. You want to make sure that you do well at math. We have to do quite a bit of calculations, and our calculations have to be accurate. You also want to look at your communication skills. You have to communicate with other professionals, and therefore you have to look at your communication skills. So we want to encourage them to get their good grades in all the subjects that are required to make it into the university. And when they come into university, they don't lose focus. It's a medical field. It's not very, very easy, but it is manageable. And therefore, once you are focused, you will complete your degree and you can get honors with your degree and move on to doing your internship and becoming a registered dietitian.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
We are back with another exciting, innovative, and inspiring season.
It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, being consistent and persistent in whatever you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Business exists to add value to people's lives. And if we're not doing that, might as well we lock down the store and just call it a day.
It's a season 3 of Creating Wealth, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Now presenting the Jamaica Social Investment Fund ICDP Enterprise Development Project. Entrepreneurial Grant Business Pitch.
This project is a $100 million grant that's seeking to target 50 small and micro business enterprises and give them training, capacity development, equipment, permits and license towards the development and the viability of their business. We have made a call for proposal in March of this year for entrepreneurs to submit for the opportunity to receive a grant between $1 and $5 million. We received more than 500 applications, and so we have now shortlisted them to 100. So we've invited that top 100 applicants here today, and they're going to have to pitch their business idea to a panel, and of the 150 will actually transpire and win the opportunity for the grants. One of the primary objectives of what we're doing here is employment. We want the business to be able to sustain not only the principals as the owners, but we also want the business to be able to employ at least 2 people. The next part of it, as we do in all of our projects like this, is it provides a learning instrument of how we can engage small and micro enterprises and take them to the next level.
Why we're doing this rigorous process because we want to identify the best potential entrepreneurs for this project. And keep in mind that we are speaking about a loan, so we want to ensure that the applicants are committed, and that from a sustainability point of view, that upon receiving the support from JSIF, that in 2 or 3 years the enterprises will still be operational and the broader objective of the project would be achieved. Once we have now equipped them and they should be ready to start their production line going, we'll then have a mentorship component.
It has been a very competitive process. Jamaica is filled with persons with drive and passion. We're expecting that the best will be selected. And then for those who are not successful, we are also hoping to link them to other providers of services, because I'm telling you today, from what I've seen, it is an excellent, excellent, excellent opportunity. It's worthy of note that many persons coming here today already have some kind of semblance of a business, but they need the additional support to move that business to the other level, as well as some persons are coming with those proposals to start from scratch. On behalf of the JSIF, we want to really thank the DBJ and other partners from UWI who came to be part of the panel, and just to remind you that the JSIF is here and we're investing for community development.
Good dental or oral care is important for maintaining healthy teeth, gums, and tongue for that perfect smile. Welcome to The Good Life. I'm your host, Amita Prasad-Webb, and today we'll be visiting Sylvan Family Care to check out the options for your oral health. Stay with us. Dr. Greenpool. I'm Amita, and I'm here to learn all about oral care. Tell me a little bit about Sylvan Family Care.
Sylvan Family Care is a medical dental facility, and the whole idea of this facility is that we have a holistic treatment, meaning that people can come here and get dental care along with medical care, but it's not only to general practitioners. We have gynecologists here, we also have a surgeon on board. So we have a group of dental surgeons and a group of medical practitioners. So if you're here to get dental care done, if there's anything that's picked up from any of our dentists that work here, we can refer you to a medical doctor who is actually in the building.
So tell me about your years in practice. How long have you been a dentist?
Well, I've been in practice for about 9 years. I studied in Trinidad, St. Augustine, UWI, and I came home in 2007. I worked as an associate for about 3 years, and I opened my first practice, that is the Tooth Center. So that's been in existence for 5 years. And in July, I opened Sylvan Family Care.
Talk to me about the mouth. Why is it important that we, practice good oral health?
Well, as you would know, your smile is very important, and it's also a gateway to your system. For a lot of people, aesthetics is important, meaning that how people perceive you is very important in terms of your smile, but then you have the other aspect of it, which is the health part of it. And a lot of systemic diseases, their first manifestation is actually in the mouth, a lot of them. So they're identified in the mouth. So it's important that we have proper health care, oral health care, where we do our 6 months oral examination, and we look for many different things apart from systemic diseases and their manifestations. We also look at the health of the mouth, the gums, the teeth, everything, because it affects people greatly.
So what is teeth, or what are teeth?
Well, teeth, as you know, we can call them organs if we wish. In our mouth, we have up to 32 of them in our mouth, most of us. It consists of a hard outer layer, which is the enamel, and underneath that is the more sensitive part, which is the dentin, followed by the pulp. You have the cementum, different structures that build up the teeth. Well, we all know we use it for mastication, which is chewing. We use it helps with our speech, because some people who lose their teeth, they speak differently. So the gums is the pink layer that we see in the mouth, the soft tissue. Some people call it the gingiva, where the word gingivitis comes from, which most people are familiar with. Your tongue is a muscular organ that's in your mouth. We use it for chewing, we use it for speaking, we use it for tasting. We have a lot of taste buds which we find on our tongue.
Oral health, what would that mean? Does that mean I have healthy gums, I have white teeth?
No, no. White teeth is not necessarily, doesn't necessarily mean you have a good oral health, because people have different shades of teeth. They come in different shades. Mm-hmm. So what good oral health really is having a healthy mouth, and we're talking about a healthy periodontium, which consists of our teeth, our gums, the bone in our mouth, the ligaments that hold our teeth in place, the tongue being healthy, the gingiva being healthy, or mucosa being healthy, which is our soft tissue, because as you know, there are many things, as I said before, that manifest. And so even if everything is fine, you might have just a little white patch on the cheek, and that can signify cancer, oral cancer. So the good oral health is not just about, let me brush my teeth every day. That's why it's so important to get your 6-month checkup, because we look for many different things in the mouth. So it's just everything being healthy.
What are some effects of poor oral health? Like not getting my checkups, not flossing, not brushing my teeth.
One of the most common things that you'll find is when you have poor oral health, or if you want to say not visiting the dentist regularly, I'll put it that way, is that we miss a lot of things, meaning that you end up with a cavity, and not every cavity is very obvious, because you have to come in, we do x-rays, we can find cavities that is in between the teeth that we can't see with the naked eye. Also, you have patients that complain a lot of bleeding in the morning, the gums bleeding, and that's just gingivitis that can exacerbate to something else like periodontal disease. People end up in a lot of pain. People have abscesses that form due to long-standing cavities that are not looked about. So there are many different things that happen with oral health. And one of the major things is halitosis, which is bad breath. A lot of people are not aware that it's happening to them, so they need someone else to tell them, and some people are not, wouldn't want to tell you that you have bad breath. So it's very important really that you come in regularly. As a dentist, it's easier for me to tell you, and you'll accept it from me much better than someone else telling it to you, or like your peers, right? So, getting your regular dental checkup, having things checked out is very important. A lot of things that people overlook, so it's very important.
What lifestyles would you say affect having good oral health?
Because good oral is so multifaceted, it's so many different things. Eating habits affect oral health, as you know, cavities, sweet things. There's also staining of the teeth, depends on what you eat. If you drink a lot of coffee, you drink a lot of red wine, it stains your teeth. There are other foods that will stain your teeth. There are other practices, especially in children. Children tend to suck their tongue, they suck their thumb, and it gives them what we call buff teeth, right? And that affects, it does not make it unhealthy, however, aesthetically, it's not pleasing, and then it can lead to other things like trauma. So it's easier to sustain trauma to the front teeth if it's protruded than if you have straight teeth. So these are some of the things.
So what would you say are some common oral health issues here in Jamaica?
What is very common? Cavities, what we call rotten teeth. Very common, very, very common. And because it's left alone for long periods of time, you find a lot of abscesses forming. So you find people coming with a lot of cavities and a lot of abscesses. So that's very common. And there are people who will go ahead and do extractions. So we find that we're doing a lot of extractions, especially in the clinics. If you go to the clinics, you find pretty much for the entire day they're extracting people's teeth, right? So that's very common. Cavities, decayed teeth, abscesses is very common in Jamaica. And we have a lot of gum disease. Because we are not taking care of their teeth, you find we have periodontal disease, which is very common throughout Jamaica.
You mentioned a lot of extractions. That's a last resort option, or is that the first thing that a dentist would do?
No, it's not the first thing. They're different depending on the severity of the cavity. There are certain cases where we don't have an option and we have to extract the tooth. That's just the prognosis is very poor, so we have to get rid of the tooth. However, there are other options. Root canal is an option. Root canal treatment, that's another option to save a badly decayed tooth.
What is a root canal?
Root canal, basically, let me put it in a nutshell. What we do is basically take the damaged nerve and blood vessels from the tooth. So usually when you have a cavity, reason why you have pain and abscess might develop is because the nerve is damaged, right? So we remove the decayed portion of the tooth, the damaged nerve, blood vessels from the tooth, make it sterile, and we actually fill in the tooth with a material, and then we can actually put a restoration on it.
Go for God Family Church.
Today's message is for those of you who thought that Jesus was finished.
Inspiring messages.
I'm here to tell you today that you are excellent. God is excellent.
Empowerment from biblical motivation.
To be glorified means to endow with authority. A woman is a powerful, creative being.
Join Pastor Christopher Morgan and the Go for God team as we go for God.
Welcome back to The Good Life. This episode is all about oral health, so check out our Need to Know feature. This week we are exploring oral health, and here are some things you may not have known. The enamel on the top surface of your tooth is the hardest part of your entire body. An average person spends 38.5 days brushing their teeth over their lifetime. Many diseases are linked to your oral health, including heart disease, osteoporosis, and diabetes. If you get your tooth knocked out, put it in milk and hold it in your mouth. This will help your tooth to survive longer. Make sure you see a dentist right away. No two people have the same set of teeth. Your teeth are as unique as your fingerprints, so be proud of your unique set of teeth. Like fingerprints, everyone's tongue print is different. Dentists have recommended that a toothbrush be kept at least 6 feet away from a toilet to avoid airborne particles resulting from the flush.
Here today, you're in our dental spa room. This is a themed dental operatory. We have 4 of them. So there is dental spa, there is our paradise room, the ivory room, and the kid adventure room, which is a kiddie room. The procedure that I'm gonna demonstrate on you is it's the regular cleaning, or we call it oral prophylaxis. This is a preventive procedure that we do similar to like fissure sealants. We do this to prevent gum disease, cavities, or it's pretty much just getting the oral cavity clean. Right? So that's what we're going to show you today. Cleaning, it ranges depending on the condition of the mouth. So it can take from 20 minutes and it can go up to probably 45 minutes. It's not a painful procedure, but for some patients it might be a little uncomfortable depending on whether they have gum disease or not. Usually when that's the case, we actually use certain things like gels, or some cases we have to anesthetize the patient to let the procedure go smoothly for them. But generally it's not a painful procedure.
All right. Well, doctor, let's get started.
So usually when we do this procedure, we think of safety and protection of the patient and also of the doctor. So part of it is wearing your protective eyewear, so the assistant will put that on for you.
Alrighty.
And I also wear a mask with a shield, and this is due to cross-infection control also. So mean that anything I have don't pass to you orally. And also I wear a glove. But between every patient, I change my gloves, so every patient gets a new glove. So you're also wearing an apron along with a bib. The purpose of the apron is to protect your clothing. So for instance, any fluids, whether it be saliva, water, so you wear a bib too. That's enough? So I will explain to you the steps that we just went through. The first part was the electronic scaling. We use a Cavitron where we go around each tooth, right, to the entire mouth. After that, what we did was a hand scaling, because sometimes the Cavitron is unable to go in between the teeth. So if there's any buildup, what we call tartar or plaque or calculus, we use a hand scale and literally go through every single teeth and actually get all that out. Then we floss. So we floss and get anything that we're unable to reach, floss that out. Then we do polishing. So we go through what look like a little toothbrush. So we go and polish the entire, that get rid of soft plaque that is on the surface of the teeth, all over the surface of the teeth. And it also it has fluoride in it, so it's fluoride releasing. Fluoride, what it does, it strengthens the teeth, the enamel of the teeth. So that's the purpose of the fluoride, really. You find that actually in water in Jamaica and in salt in Jamaica. You have fluoridated salt, and our water is actually fluoridated. So you can look out for fluoridated salt on over the counter and start using that. It helps to give kids fluoride.
What would you say to those people that are fearful, to go to the dentist?
It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. I know people might have certain experiences as a child, and that's usually the problem, as people have experiences as kids and they carry that with them. It's not painful as people think it is, and if there's anything that we do here at Sylvan that we anticipate would be painful for you, we actually have certain measures. We put certain things in place to make sure that you're not in any pain. Also, we try to have an environment that is very calming, hence the spa room. We try to, make it very calming. We actually have, as behind you, we have Netflix. So we have patients who are, say, a little apprehensive or anxious. We actually give them a chance to watch anything they want to watch on Netflix, whether it be a movie or listen to music, anything that will calm them down before we start any procedure with them. And the staff is very friendly staff, and they help in calming down patients before I actually come in the room. So, by the time I get here, the patient is relaxed and ready for me to do whatever I have to do. And normally I'm pretty gentle with my patients.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this: no more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
If you are just joining us, we are looking at oral health at Sylvan Family Care. Let's wrap things up with the various costs to get that perfect smile, as well as tips to maintain it.
I am Cavell Clark, and I am the office manager here at Sylvan Family Care. Here at Sylvan Family Care, we provide a wide range of services, dental services in particular. We do oral examination, cleaning, teeth whitening, denture repair, fillings. We do simple extractions, simple surgical extractions, and complex extractions. Simple extraction meaning if it's not your wisdom tooth, that is $5,000. And if it is your wisdom tooth, what we tend to do is to do an x-ray first before going in to do the extraction. The x-ray will pretty much tell us if the tooth is impacted, meaning if it's lying on its side, or if it's upright, it's something that we can just simply extract. If the x-ray comes back and it's depicting that it's not impacted, then we can go right ahead and take it out. It costs $7,500. If it is that it's impacted, then it could range between $10,000 to $20,000 because that's a surgical removal of it right there. Cleaning prices, they range from $6,500 and it could be up to even $9,000, dependent if the person smokes or they drink a lot of coffee. For filling, there's also a range. The most match to the shade of your actual tooth. So that's a little bit more expensive, ranges between $7,000 and $8,000. And then we have the amalgam filling, which is like that silver material or gold plated material. That ranges from $5,000 to $7,000. So patients, they can decide which type of filling that they want. For whitening, which is also one of the popular procedures that we do here, you have two prices. So whitening, you can have the take-home kit, which is for $15,000, and then you have the in-office treatment, which is for $18,000. But before the whitening procedure, an oral examination and dental cleaning has to be done before that. And most of our dental procedures, they are covered by health insurance. We accept Sagicor and Medicus health cards. They usually cover 80%.
From time to time, throughout the year, we do have specials. Usually we give discount ranging from 10 to 20%. In Oral Health Month, we usually do a 20% discount.
In order for me to take advantage of my 20% discount, when is Oral Health Month?
That's in October. Every October, we have Oral Health Month across Jamaica.
So I have to mark that down on my calendar.
October.
What are some tips that you'd give to, everyday people that need to keep their teeth in tip-top shape?
What I would say is ensure that you brush your teeth at least 2 times a day. It doesn't have to be 2, it can be more than 2, but at least 2 times a day. In the morning when you get up, it's important that you brush your teeth, and before you go to bed at night, this is after you have eaten throughout the day. Don't brush and then have a snack and go to bed. Right. So it's after you eat at night, then you brush and then go to bed. Flossing is also very important. It's very important to floss because of a lot of food that get trapped in between the teeth that the bristle of your toothbrush cannot get in between. So it's important to brush often, use your floss, and also mouthwash is very important.
How often should I change my toothbrush?
Every 3 months. And not just that, if you're sick, if you have a cold, after the cold is throw away that toothbrush because of germs. So you change it after you have an illness like cold or anything like that, you get rid of the toothbrush, but generally every 3 months you change your toothbrush. And it's also important that you use a soft bristle. A lot of people think that because it's soft it's not going to clean your teeth, but the hard bristle tend to damage the gum line. And so it's important that you go with a soft bristle toothbrush. And there's extra soft out there too for some people who have very sensitive gums. Extra soft is there.
For those people with small children, when should you start taking children to the dentist?
Usually you can start as soon as you'll say about 2 years old is a good time to start. What you do is try to get the child acclimatized because they tend to be fearful, and so we start them with just small things and get them accustomed to coming to the dentist. And at about, I'll say 3, we start doing their cleanings. Not as, obviously, as in-depth as yours, but we do a lot of hand scaling, a lot of polishing, and just get them used to coming here. So after they reach a certain age, it's like second nature to them to come to the dentist. Yeah. I know for some parents, they believe that because a child is going to change their milk teeth, or baby teeth, deciduous teeth as we call it, then there's no need to take them to the dentist because it's going to fall out. But that should not happen because a lot of times there's a sequence of events. It's how the teeth come out. They come in a certain order. Sometimes when the teeth are not taken care of, then they decay. Sometimes they have to be extracted before they're supposed to come out because they naturally exfoliate when they're supposed to. And that allows the permanent teeth to come up in the position they're supposed to come up in. So you find that a lot of kids will have jumbled teeth, impacted teeth because the teeth is unable to come out, there's no space for it. So a lot of complications happen. So it's very important that we preserve the baby teeth to allow for the adult teeth to come out the way they're supposed to. And also, it's important to take care of the kids' teeth because if they get cavities, it's paying them just like it would pain any other person, So they have to take care of it because they do feel the pain just like us. If you get up in the morning and when you brush your teeth or you spit, you see a streak of blood in your saliva, that's indication you have gingivitis, right? If it is that you find you eat something like a piece of candy or chocolate or anything cold and you get a cramp, it might last for a short period of time, but then it go away and you ignore it, that's a sign you should go to the dentist. These are symptoms and signs that we look for that indicate bigger problems. And so these are just 2 common things that you'll find people. Sometimes people have what we call a gum boil, and they call it a gum boil. It's just a gum boil, but it's really an abscess. It's really an abscess that's in the bone, and the pus, if you me, is trying to find a tract to come out, and it creates a gum boil. So people will see these things, and it pains for a while, and then it go away, and then they're fine with it. But it's really an indication of a much bigger problem.
Well, there you have it for this episode of The Good Life. Today we visited Sylvan Family Care to check out your options for good oral health. I've been your host, Amita Prasad Webb, and remember, health is wealth.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange wishes to help to develop the social sector. To that end, they have formed the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange, which is a safe, efficient, and transparent platform that aims to promote social projects that build Jamaica and will inure to the benefit of all persons living in the country.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange is a company that encourages and mobilizes capital for the main market. And that is the market that is not the social sector. Now, the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange is really geared towards the social sector to help to solve social problems in the field of health, education, about children, environment. Those are some of the things that we consider social problems. And so it is to mobilize the capital, allow persons who have a desire to invest in a social good, to invest in the social stock exchange. It is designed in two parts. In phase one, where we look at social investment, and phase two, where we look at social impact investment. Now, in phase one, really what we are saying is it is donation. An organization will have a social issue and design it into a project or a program and invite Jamaicans or persons within the diaspora or the entire world to fund this program. Now in phase two, you're going to get a return on investment which is not social. You will be getting shares, natural shares, as you would get if you invested in the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And what you'll get is a return on capital, which is possibly dividend or an appreciation in that share. The Jamaica Social Stock Exchange does more than ask for the funding of these programs, but goes beyond that in terms of monitoring, ensuring that these programs are meeting the targets and the